Hi, I'm Terry Kimball, President and CEO here at the Chandler Chamber, and I have Nicholas Gonzales here. Thank you so much for joining us. He is running for Arizona House of Representatives. So thank you so much for joining
Of
us.
course. Thank you so much for having me.
So, why did you want to run for a state office?
Yeah, well, it really boiled down to the fact that I grew up just right on the other side of Chandler High School here in this community. And after getting a degree in urban planning and working a lot in affordable housing here in our state, and also having some background in legal work from my law school degree, I felt ready to come back home and stand up and represent my community. I also have a 14-year-old who started again down the street at Chandler High School. So I'm a proud dad of a wolf, kind of following in my footsteps and continuing the legacy. So, I have deep roots here in Chandler and in this community. And certainly now more than ever, we're needing that type of representation. And so, with the support of my family and my network, and especially my community here in Chandler, I've made the decision to run and honored to do it.
Great. Thank you for that background. So let's talk a little bit about what you see are some of the biggest issues or challenges that your district's going to be facing here within the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, certainly affordability is going to be a huge concern here in Chandler. I grew up here before the 101 or the 202 was built, and when Chandler High School was the only high school in town. So I've certainly seen where Chandler has come from in the last 30 years, and it's a little concerning that I'm not as confident with my son's ability to graduate from Chandler High School and afford to live here in this community. And I want to make sure he has the opportunity to do so and to raise a family here in Chandler. And if he would like to follow in my footsteps and become a business owner, I'd love to him to have that opportunity here and the next generation of Chandler residents. So that's been a lot of my focus and what's really inspiring me to run.
Great. So the Chandler Chamber here in Chandler represents about 172,000 employees here within the Chandler community. And because of that, we obviously are that voice of business. If elected, how will you continue to foster a positive relationship between your office and the chamber?
Yeah, well, I'll point it all back to being a small business owner and having gotten more involved in local businesses here in Chandler. One in particular is the State 48 Foundation, where I've really been able to recognize their ability to grow the entrepreneurial spirit and entrepreneurial engagement here in the city, which I'm confident is helping support economic development and workforce development. So that's the example I like to use, and I've been working with them for couple years now, and am excited to continue to promote that type of work here in Chandler. And that's where I feel like we're going to be able to keep up with the future challenges in economic growth and workforce security here in Chandler. So that's what I plan on bringing to the relationship with the Chandler Chamber.
Great. So last legislative session, we saw over 1,700 bills dropped down at there. Talk to me a little bit about your top maybe 1, 2, 3 policy issues that you would really like to work on.
Yeah, well, just leaning on my professional background in community planning and affordable housing, one of the first bills that I'm going to propose is appropriating more funding to the low-income housing tax credit, which will incentivize developers to build more housing statewide, not necessarily here in Chandler, but just by building more housing statewide is going to help lower prices and make things a little bit more affordable for us here in Chandler. So that's going to be one of the first bills that I try to push forward. And then certainly again, with my relationship with State 48 Foundation, I would like to create some more opportunities, some better resources for startup small businesses and young entrepreneurs, really hoping to promote that economic development here in our city. So I'll be pushing something forward to help incentivize those opportunities. And yeah, if I had a third, I would be pushing for something to help support our public schools here in the district and statewide. As a product of the Chandler Unified School District, and now with my son there in the school, I've been able to understand the value of our public schools, and really going to be pushing to make sure they continue to get support so that the next generation of Chandler students can thrive.
So, as politics becomes more partisan, how will you work with others you might not necessarily agree with? And then the second part of that is, what is your plan to make more of a unified political environment here?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would refer back again to my professional experience as a community planner. Part of that job entails working with community stakeholders, city officials, local law enforcement, really all stakeholders that might be involved in a development or any sort of proposed planning venture that you might have in a city. So from that skill set, I've been able to learn how to work with all types of professionals and with all types of maybe political backgrounds. And so looking past party lines and looking towards what's going to get the job done, and just ensuring that I'm remaining collaborative and I'm keeping a seat open for everybody at the table. That's really going to be my priority if elected, is going to be working in the middle of the aisle to get things done for Arizonans, and not focusing so much on the political back and forth.
Great, thank you. So, how will you maintain fiscal responsibility and prioritize smart allocations of monies down there?
Yeah, that's a very challenging thing to do, and I will definitely be leaning on my experience managing development budgets. From my background, I've managed development budgets all the way up to about $25 million. So I've certainly had to work with very large budgets for the developments I've worked on. And it's really just focusing, at least in that aspect, when it comes to balancing the budget, it's focusing on the details and making sure that we're really paying attention to the effectiveness of where the money is going. And that's going to be my goal too, is creating clearer metrics and essentially clearer metrics to show success in the state legislature, which is certainly going to be applicable when it comes to balancing the budget, because it's important that we're showing that where the money's going is creating an impact and causing an effect in a positive way. So I'll definitely be promoting that.
Great. So water is a big deal here in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you support or oppose reducing the 100-year water supply requirement? And how do you propose that we balance like new development with our limitations on our water supply?
Yeah, that's obviously a great question. It's a big deal here. We're in a desert. We don't have infinite water supply here, so we do have to be paying attention to that. And as a community planner who works with developers, I've certainly been able to see how growth and development is impacting our water supply here in Arizona. So really my solution to that, and this is from my experience having been in these rooms where water supply conversations are being had, and on both sides of the room, rooms, you'll have developers believing we have enough water to last us 100 years, and then the other half of the room believing we don't have enough water to last us 100 years. And I believe that comes down to not having enough information and not having enough clear research. Again, metrics that are showing success. And so my first proposal is going to be creating clearer metrics and investing more in research to really identify where we're at with our water status so that we can create clearer recommendations for local municipalities to implement and incorporate their policies to solve their individual water issues, because I don't believe it's a one-size-fits-all solution to cover the entire state. I believe it's going to come down to the local governments being able to implement policies that make the most sense for their communities, which an urban community and a rural agricultural community are going to have very different water usages and therefore different policies that need to be recommended.
Very true, very true. Well, I know that we've had a short amount of time here, but we've kind of been a little bit all over the board on some of the questions. Is there anything I may not have asked you or you want to tell the voters here in Chandler why they should select you and why should they vote for you?
Yeah, well, I just want to reiterate the fact that this is my hometown. This is where I grew up. I went to Goodman Elementary and graduated from Chandler High School, so I'm definitely a proud resident of Chandler. But you know, more than that, I have the background and experience to contribute to solving problems here in Arizona and really help promote economic development and new businesses here in Chandler. And you know, leaning on my experience as a small business owner, I have been navigating the kind of negative side effects of COVID and relocating from California, where I started my business. But again, as I mentioned, I'm back here at home and really excited to represent my community and hopefully support positive growth here in Chandler.
That's great. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Nicholas Gonzales, candidate running for our Arizona State House of Representatives.